As a
I felt like I
gliding.
didn't belong. I mean, I was so intimidated. I knew I was smart. I had all this confidence, put myself up on day one. Like, I got this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to meet people. I'm going to, learn. I'm going to soak up
Mm-hmm.
as much as I can to better myself and climb this career ladder the way I planned. But oftentimes, yeah, I was in rooms where I felt like I didn't belong or that I wasn't wanted because of my background or questioned if I deserve to even have this job, or like, yeah, they're going to find out I'm a fake, I'm a phony. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. But I don't
No,
know if these feelings just,
like I
they
said,
creep up.
welcome back to another episode of the Two Skill to Fail podcast, where I have Jazmin Diaz here as my guest. I want to say a guest of honor. She is a CEO and founder of Flourish Learning and Development. She is a growth queen, is what she calls herself, and she's a proud mother of four. Not to mention, she's also an author of Ignite Your Growth, and we will be talking about that book today. I have it here. I have some tags here, so Jazmin, get ready for the questions. Miss Jazmin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me. Truly a pleasure to share this time with you, Tanisha.
Thank you. You and I go way back. So we're going to go from our corporate mindset because that's where we're at right now. Both you and I are corporate, but our backgrounds are far from corporate and
Right.
what traditional corporate world looks like and what people expect out of somebody two women who are young parents. And so today I want to talk about, of course, you being in corporate right now, but then the journey, because that's what this is all about, to give people that background. People see you today and who you show up as today as Jazmin Diaz, the professional in a corporate environment. It took us a long time, you and I both a long time to get to where we're at. So I want to delve into that today.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And I appreciate you using the word journey because that truly is, in my opinion, what life is, right? It's a journey and it's really taught. And I've appreciated and learned so much about myself. And now I'm trying to share some of that wisdom and those experiences to empower and help others on their journeys as well.
That's amazing. Anytime we can give back is a great thing. And if we can give back in a way that is definitely about our background, gives our story, we can give back and kind of join a group and maybe give food to the homeless. And I talk about this all the time. We can give back in so many different ways, but when we can give back based on our experiences and what we've been through, I think that does so much for us personally that helps others, right? And I
Right.
think
Yep.
it correlates over more. It's more natural.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So you and I, again, I'm going to go back to the beginning. So Jazmin and I met a very long time ago in a setting, and I want you to tell your story, but we met in a setting to where I would see Jazmin every day. She'd see me every day. I'm rushing in. So Jazmin worked at the school district where my kids actually went, and that's how we first connected. So seeing her there, and then later on in life, I see her online, I see her on LinkedIn, and I'm like, what has happened? What the gap between, you were working at the school as administrator, which is a very great job, and someone has to do it, and someone has to be very strong to do that job, especially working with junior high school students or what they call now middle school students.
Yep.
To now you are on LinkedIn, you're promoting a book that you wrote. I was overly inspired, and that right then there, I was like, we definitely have to connect. I'm so proud of you. What have you been
Thank
doing?
you.
And now I want to fill in that gap. So please tell your journey of, your background of where you've been and then where you are now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And you mentioning how we go way back, like it instantly reminded me, it took it like I time warped back to you and I passing each other at the daycare drop off
Yeah.
or pickup, right? And it was just jamming from one thing to the next because we're both working full time and just, go-getters and strong women doing what we had to do to provide for our families and do the best we could for our kids as well. So yes, it seems like so long ago, but not that long ago if you really think about it and do the math, right? So yes, so going back to the school district, it was absolutely one of the most fulfilling jobs in my career. And the reason I say it's fulfilling is because that position put me in an environment where I got to work with those times in society called at-risk youth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I absolutely was, that growing up. I was someone who was labeled as at-risk youth, potentially, not going to go to college, get be a mom young, not do the conventional path that you referenced earlier, maybe not go to college. And so, yes, I definitely lived up to the stereotype in that regard. However, that did not limit my possibilities of what I could do. So when I was at the school district job, because of my my life and those experiences that I had as a youth, I was able to really apply with the youth that I got to work with, right? And that was, helping change the narrative, build up the youth, hopefully gear them towards a different direction of something that they didn't see that they could do, or that was possible for them.
Hmm.
So the district was a great job. There was obviously the day-to-day administrative, tactical stuff, interacting with the community, the parents, but the most fulfilling part of it was really making the impact with the youth then that I didn't even realize. And this is very much before, mentorship, coaching, all these things became a thing, at least in my world at the time. So very fulfilling. However, the job itself, was paying the bills. It offered the schedule that I needed at that time in my life with my husband, right? We were both working full time. We were both young parents, had 4 children by the time we were 25 years old. So the school district for me offered that flexible schedule where I had summers off, the holidays. So I got to be with the kids a little extra than most parents who work. So I really appreciated it because it gave us that. Then came a point where, slowly over time, I kept feeling like there was a calling, like I think I can do more. I'm capable of more. I want to do more. And I would see women like you and so many others that I recall so vividly in my memory, picking up the kids, and I'd look at them and be like, damn, what do they do? They come in just dolled up, polished, confident, picking up the kids, running around. But it made me very curious, like, what do they do? And how can I do what they do?
Hmm.
And so I started having, more intentional conversations, getting to know these women that were, inspiring me and really igniting that fire of curiosity. And so before I knew it, I started really creating a path of what is it going to require for me to jump ship from the school district to a corporate tech space, which oftentimes at that point in my life made me feel like it might not be an attainable goal because I don't have that traditional background. I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree, but I knew I had grit. I knew I had determination. I knew I was a fast learner, and I also had an amazing work ethic. So once I did all those things, I took the leap of faith and got into the corporate tech space.
Yeah. Well, look, welcome to the world. It's a huge transition for me. I started off in tech pretty young. I was about 18 years old when I started on tech, and it was front desk, but front desk turned into working in kind of HR, marketing. It was a little bit of everything working in front desk and work my way back.
Yeah.
And to your point of your story where you saw other people kind of navigating in and out of your, place of business, and you wanted to see, I would see people leaving the front desk, passing the front desk, going into offices dressed up in suits and things like that were things that I couldn't afford. I couldn't afford that at that time.
Right.
And so what I did, I started off at the Goodwill. I started going to the Goodwill, buying clothes. I would look at people. I'm like, okay, they're wearing a suit jacket. Okay, they can wear actually jeans and a nice blouse and a suit jacket. Oh, I can do that if I can
Mhm.
just get a jacket. So it was
Yep.
that slow movement of I wanted to move to another direction. I wanted to have my own style and flair, and this not just in fashion, but when it came to professionalism, I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. It wasn't necessarily exactly what they did. It was just that walk, I would see them glide through
Yeah.
where I was in the background for me. And as you probably know this, we're rushing and getting the kids. Like, I forgot about that. You pointed that out too. I forgot about we also connected at the daycare and then went parted ways. And then you end up seeing
Yeah.
me at the school, at the junior high school, when I would drop off the kids at the junior high school. So there was that twofold for us. But I would have all this hustle and bustle to get there. And then I'm at work and I'm like, okay, wait, let me make sure there was no kids in the backseat of the car because I had five at this time. Did I forget to drop anybody off?
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I'm like, am I the only one that feels this anxious? Everyone else just seems like they're just gliding in. Now, granted, reality check, I'm in corporate. I hear and see these things now. It was just something about the level in which the people walking past me were holding themselves to walk in that building. And it probably was for so many other things. They had to hold it together for the corporate environment. They couldn't show people the struggle that they had to go through in the morning. But I see that, I know that now for a fact. But then I was just like, they just seem like they're not struggling. They're gliding in. They're having coffee when they first walk in
Right.
and sitting. And my thing was get right to work, right?
Yeah.
It's time to get right
Yeah.
to work. There's no let's get coffee first and prep
Right.
our desk to work. It was jump in and start working at 8 o'clock and be on time and clock in on time.
Yeah. Yeah. No time to waste. That resonates deeply with me. when I think back to those days, the same, like having the four little ones at the time when they were all in school and getting up, 5:30 a.m. You're up, you're like trying to shower, trying to make breakfast, pack lunches, get clothes ready, get the kids up, dropping off at multiple locations, get to work, right? And then it's like, get through the workday because now I got to do this all in reverse, get home, start dinner, homework checks, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I remember being in corporate too, like lunchtimes, people would go out and socialize and, chit chat and whatnot. And for me, I was like, I got to call the doctors. I got to change the dentist appointment. I have to make
Absolutely.
sure, that if one of my twins, I got to call from the daycare, I got to call them
I got
back,
I
whatever
got to
it
go to the
was.
daycare and check on
Oh,
them.
it's just juggling so much, but hey, we survived. And you know what? It made us
Absolutely.
stronger. And there's so many skills that came with being able to navigate and do all of that while raising a family
Absolutely.
that I definitely apply in my roles today and managing the household as well.
Yeah, one thing I have to say too, someone listening could say, you two put that on yourself. You decided to be a young,
Yeah.
whether you two or you four, however it was, I was married at the time as well. So it was me,
Yep.
your husband, and, my husband at the time. We
Yep.
put that on ourselves to have this. That is a struggle. So I always want to kind of be the devil's advocate, even for myself.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone yesterday and we were talking about someone's life, the career choices. And when he was like, that's, honestly, that's their career choice or that was their life choice, to be
Yeah.
honest. He's like, I don't know if this sounds harsh. And I'm like, harsh reality is true. This was a choice that I made. I wasn't forced into anything that I did as a young parent to become a young parent, but it was about how navigating, my way through. So I always try to talk to when I do the kind of talking to young parents or young students who potentially could become parents. I am talking to them about how hard it was to navigate and get through. It was a decision that I made, not a decision that I made with a lot of thought. I just didn't have a lot of background experience. I didn't have a lot of the support, so I felt like it was the right thing to do. At
Yeah.
16, it was the right thing to go ahead and, and I'm going to keep this baby. I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to have a family and I'm going to make it work. And this is a 16-year-old thinking.
Yeah.
This is a 17 and 20. Again, by 24, by 20, you were 24 when you had the four. Yeah, by 27, I had five kids.
Yeah.
So five kids, having to work, having and didn't have a break to save my life, and that was something I put on myself. So I like to talk to people about that. Like I get it. This was a decision I made. It was hard, and no matter what, whether you have kids or you don't, there are hard decisions that you're going to have to make in your life and your career. This is just
Yeah.
what we chose to do, and so
Yeah.
that's just a reality check for anyone who's out there. Like you put that on yourself. You're right. You're
Yeah, yeah, and that's absolutely, everyone's entitled to their opinion for
right.
sure. But I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But if I think of us two, I think the differentiator there is that you and I both, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, our mindset. We were not victims; we were victors in the sense that, yeah, we made these choices. Choices have consequence, but we decided also that we were going to make the best of what we could with what we could, and just, laying back and just kind of chilling and, settling. That was never an
That was
option
never
for
an
for
option.
me or my husband. It was like, all right, we got a daughter, we got a mouth to feed, keep
Mhm.
going. We're working to building a family, to
Right.
building a life that was better than that when we had. That was
Mhm.
always the driver. Came more kids, and it was like, all right, you just do what you got to do, right? And they
You
were always
do.
the priority and the driving force for us to
You
keep pushing
do.
forward.
I love that. I'm gonna already jump into stuff in your book because I mean you're already igniting the growth, but I do have a book here. This is the book here. We'll get a clearer version of that and also get you the link to that book. But the vision here, a lot of things that I noted in here, I had time to read this weekend. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
In
thank you.
here, one of the things I talked about already on the show was mindset. You talked about mindset, and it all came down to your point right now that you made was about our mindset. Our mindset had to be whether it's growth or it's fixed. In a fixed
Yep.
mindset, we would have said society along with society, we have kids, we're young and having these kids. This is how our life, whatever that our lifestyle has to be according to what society thinks it should be.
Right.
Less than what we can actually potentially do if we got out of our mind and had the growth mindset. I
Mhm.
was always I never knew anything about fixed versus growth mindset, but I knew that I had a growth mindset. I just didn't have the words to call it.
Yeah.
What is that for you? And where did you get that strategy from? Where did that come from you? From you, me, it came from the book called Mindset. And I
Mhm.
read this book and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I've had, gone
Yeah.
through. And then I can tell where I had the fixed mindset in certain things.
Yeah.
Because I have five kids, I can't leave this marriage because if I leave this marriage, I'm going to end up by myself. Fixed, very
Right.
fixed mindset. So
Right.
I had to get out of my way. But where'd you get that mindset from?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, growing up, and I call that out in the book in the later chapter, but there was a lot of things that were instilled in me that I think I adopted just naturally. That fixed mindset or way of thinking, narrow and just like this is what it is, and that's it, right? And I think as I grew up and started kind of paying attention, especially to people that I found myself really admiring or looking up to as like, wow, like they're amazing and they're good people. They're people that I felt that I aligned with in terms of maybe values and what they were doing, how they were engaging with others and treating others and whatnot. And when I got into corporate, I think that's really where that shift happened for me. And there was the shift from the professional side, but then from the life side, I'm going to say it was my faith, like reconnecting with God in ways that I had lost touch for a while, and reconnecting with my faith, and then really being intentional in the professional workspace in terms of what's different and what can I adopt or what can I change to continue to thrive and flourish, right? And so it was almost a self inventory that I did about myself. Like, where are the way, what are the times and what are the moments where I'm catching myself having that fixed mindset? And where do I need to shift and now have that growth mindset? So, going back to victim or victor, am I going to sit here and blame people for my circumstances, what I could or couldn't do? Or am I going to take accountability, take ownership, and be a victor and do what I need to do to
Right.
whatever it is, to accomplish whatever it is I'm trying to pursue? Right. So, I think once I was able to really recognize and acknowledge that for myself, it was catching myself in the moment and choosing to have the growth mindset versus the fixed, right? So
Right.
not feeling defeated, not, feeling jealous, not, it's like, no, if I want something, I could do it. It's going to
Mhm.
take work. It's going to require a lot of different things, but either I'm going to do it or not. And if I'm not going to sit here and be a victim,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. No, that and that time, yeah, the time span to sit to be a victim, it takes so much energy and so much time where you could have taken care of other things in that time frame.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
when I first made the decision to become the parent and saying, yes, I'm going to become this parent, I think right there that was a switch. That was one of many switches. Think of a huge
Hmm.
switchboard because there were so many different switches that had to click, I had to click on.
Yeah.
Funny enough, yeah, switchboard. I'm gonna use that concept now. But I had
Yeah.
to click on little things. I was like, okay, so it's on right now. From this point on, I have to make sure to prove then it was proving to my anyone who doubted me that I can do this.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And when I got to a point where it was about proving to myself, when I set goals for myself and by myself,
Hmm.
because of whatever else I wanted to do differently, when I surpassed what my parents had done already, which was not hard to do, I would say that gently. My
Yeah.
mother, she dropped out of high school, because she was a teen parent, and then she got her GED later on. Congratulations to that. She got a certification in medical terminology. I remember helping her with that, so that's kudos to her. But looking around at my mother and my father and my, anyone else on my mother's, I'm like, I'm the first one who got the degree that I can see, from left to
Yeah.
right. My dad's and mom's dad, and then the first get the degree, get another degree. Had to have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree now. In my mind, I was like, I've surpassed what they felt they were capable or they were able to do. Now what? And as soon as I got there, I was like, it's not a competition anymore. Who am I competing with? And
Yeah.
I kept on feeling I had to compete with the naysaying and the family members and the friends. And I was like, no, I'm not competing with anyone. Once I got past that, that's when I was like, it's my time now. That was another switch. The
Yeah.
first switch was I'm going to make it. I'm going to do something with myself. I don't know what make it looks like, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to figure out something. I remember an option of taking on welfare or not taking on welfare. I took on welfare at first. Within 11 months, I was off welfare and I was like, no, I'll rather work 2 and 3 jobs than to stay on welfare. And that was a decision I made. No,
Yeah.
no pun for anyone else. I
Yeah.
respect that. Do what you have to do because I also
Right.
needed daycare assistance later on in life. So I was on
Right.
a daycare program. So I needed the assistance along the way. But as soon as I got myself to the next level, it was like, okay, got it. Another
Yeah.
switch. Click
Yeah.
on that switch. Next switch is now sustain this level. Even to the point where when I was in a process of getting a divorce, it was one of those things where I was like, oh shoot, if I get a divorce, I'm paying the bills by myself. I'm going to take care of the kids for the most part by myself. At least when they're home with me, I'll be by myself with them, right? I can
Yeah.
never claim fully that I was a single parent. I can't because the father was there in a, whether they were in the house, we coordinated, but I had to think about that. So for a minute I paused and I was like, okay, I guess I need to just stay here. But it was one of those things where I was like, wait, no, I flicked the switch at 16. I'd be darn to, put that switch down, flick it down and say,
Yeah.
this is all, this is it.
Right.
Right. I had to keep on moving. And so I wanted to get to what you said something else. Oh, I want to get to it because it goes along with this. The risk. So take the risk. So we were
Yeah.
talking about taking risks and taking those smart risks. So that's what the risk that I had to take in my marriage, or deciding to get a divorce and do it again on my own. That's one of the things that was a huge milestone for me.
Yeah.
And once I flip that switch, again, I always have to remember that that switch is already flicked for that
Yeah.
type of a goal and accomplishment. So therefore, any other thing in life, I have to say, I already flipped that switch. I already gave myself permission to move
Yeah.
forward. Tell me more about that section in your book about taking risks.
Yeah, yeah. So, I have to just really quick though call out that I did appreciate you talking about kind of defying the naysayers, right? It's like the whole against all odds, especially being the young parents that we were in the times that we were in, right? So that also was a big driver, almost made me feel like watch me or watch us, right? Because it's like, oh, you think we're gonna fail? You think, I'm just gonna be a teen mom, he's gonna leave me, all the things that you would hear, right? And we made it happen. So that again, going back to that mindset of failure was never an option. It was like we're gonna make it work, whatever that means, whatever that looks like, who knows? But we're not gonna just, settle.
Yeah.
So coming back to risk, when I talked about making the decision to leave the school district to corporate, for me, that was a really big risk. And this actually ties into one of the chapters too, which is the getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Because I was scared, Tanisha. Like, again, having the non conventional background or what society, especially here in the Silicon Valley, says that you need to have in terms of your educational pedigree, the
Yes.
background, the network, the connections. I didn't have any of that. So it was like, okay, can I do this? Who am I kidding? A lot of self-doubt, that imposter syndrome you hear conversations about, often. All of those things were real for me. I was living through them. And, as I was trying to get out of that district, I applied to many jobs, got rejected many, many times. And it still was like, I want to do this. I know I need to do this. I can do this, but it was just figuring out how. So I think you mentioned this early in our conversation too. Like it actually had to be let me find a job where it's like a demotion, taking a step back. So I went for receptionist jobs on the advice of a very close friend who I talked to about what I wanted to do and taking this big risk. And so I broke in right into the tech space on her advice and the guidance of which I also outlined briefly in the book. But the risk, it was, I made the decision to take the risk because the benefits outweighed not taking the risk.
Hmm.
If I stayed put in the district, it was okay, I'll keep with this cushy job. I'm so comfortable. I don't have to really stretch or work really, really hard. I can do it with my eyes closed, but financially, our kids were growing up and it was like, we want to put them through college. We want to travel. We want to do all these things. And on this salary, I don't know if that's going to be possible,
Right.
especially not with four. So then it was this risk is going to be a valuable thing for me in the sense of growth and tapping into potential I knew I had, and also provide more financial stability and freedom in a sense of we can provide more and do more for our children.
Hmm.
So for me, I think with any risk, it's like, yeah, do the research, contemplate over the pros, the cons. And more times than not, I think we learn that the pros are a lot more than the cons. It's
Absolutely.
just that fear of taking it because we're comfortable, right? And it is scary. But if it's something in your heart, you got that calling, that drive. I think more times than not, like I said, I've talked with so many people. You take that risk, and it's so fulfilling and rewarding.
Yeah, there were so many times in my career where changing my career. I stayed at jobs for a long time because I was afraid to move. I was afraid I wasn't ready. I would have
Yeah,
gone into the next job and they would have been like, you're an imposter.
yeah,
Everything on your
oh yeah,
resume is, not valid. And so I had this huge fear. And so I would stay for longer than I needed to stay at places, or I'd get in a situation and I'm like, I felt it though. I have felt it when I got in some, I was like, this is not for me. This
yeah,
is not going to be a long-term thing. After leaving, I was at a job for 13 years and I started hopping around for the first time in my career because hopping around, being a parent of five and also a divorced parent of five, hopping around is not something you would necessarily do. You stay fixed and fixated there because you need the job, you need the stability, and the
yeah,
kids need to be stable. And so, being someone to think about, if I don't have this job, I am living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm going to be homeless with five kids. In my mind, I was like, that I have to just sit still. And so, I just started making from that point on, making. You're talking about taking risks. It was a risk I would take, but I was trying to make it calculated.
yeah,
Let me save up money. So just talking about the how, like there's risks you take, but there is also, for me with five kids, I couldn't just jump off and do things. So I made sure I had a couple of months worth of savings. That's not, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I'll say that for the most part. But there was that little frivolous money that you'd spend on things, getting my nails
yeah.
done, getting my eyebrows done. So I started looking really crazy and having really terrible eyebrows because I was doing it myself. and honestly,
Sacrifice.
I have pictures to prove
Sacrifice.
it.
Yeah.
So I was sacrificing all the things I needed to do, and working extra jobs. So I would get side jobs too. So let me say that I actually got side jobs because I was working paycheck to paycheck, and I would cushion myself a little bit. It wasn't much. It was more so. I mean, realistically, could I find a new job in 3 months if this one didn't work out? I would also be in the background looking for other opportunities as well, something that closer to my house. And so now I have more time with my kids. And when I would take that risk, it was more so it was calculated
Mm,
more so because I had the kids.
yeah.
Now, not having the kids, I think about those calculations. I'm like, I'm taking even bigger risks. And so what they say is scared money makes no money. So
Yeah.
I'm doing more like a gamble. I'm not gambling. Yes, I live in Vegas. I'm not gambling, but I am taking less calculated risks and I'm taking more aggressive risks now because I don't have the kids in the house.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, timing is everything, right? And I think to a certain point, you and I both, in a lot of ways, were conservative with some of those risks,
Mhm.
whether they were big or small, because of the kids, right? Like you talked about the job, like absolutely. Even the timing when I took that leap, I'm thinking benefits and time off, and now I'm not gonna have summers, and now we're paying for day. Like you're considering so many things, but it's around the world of your children because clearly, when I hear you, they were your life. They are your life.
That's it.
No,
That's
so
all I knew.
anything and everything you're doing was always for the best interest of them. And so timing matters. And I think when you say calculated, like absolutely, those things matter so much that you have to consider them because you need to make sure they're safe, they're taken care of, and that you're going to provide. And if that even means hitting a pause on some of our dreams, like we were willing to do that, right? Even if it was letting the eyebrows grow in or
Mm.
sacrificing, dinners or date nights, whatever that was, like you're going to do what you have to do as a parent to provide for your children first and foremost.
Yeah, I think that we don't see that again. Thus, going back to where I didn't see people in the corporate environment, I didn't see
Yeah.
really the backstory of them because I didn't speak to them. They were like on a whole. Did it feel like that? Like people were on a whole different level than you? You're like
Oh,
you were like on
yeah.
a whole different planet as they
I felt
glided
like I
in.
didn't belong. I mean, I was so intimidated. I knew I was smart. I had all this confidence,
Mhm.
put myself up on day one. Like, I got this. I'm
Mhm.
going to meet people. I'm going to, learn. I'm going to soak up
Mhm.
as much as I can to better myself and climb this career ladder the way I planned. But oftentimes, yeah, I was in rooms where I felt like I didn't belong or that I wasn't wanted because of my background or questioned if I deserve to even have this job, or like, yeah, they're going to find out I'm a fake, I'm a phony. And it's like,
Mhm.
I'm not. But I don't
No.
know if these feelings just,
Like I
they
said,
creep up. Yeah.
they have a name for it, which you said was the imposter
Yeah.
syndrome, us feeling like we're not
Yeah.
worthy of the roles that we have gotten in. And here's the thing, we
Yeah.
got ourselves into those roles, and I had to go back and think of
Yeah.
that. No one gave me a job. I had to go and represent myself in the interview and sell you
Mhm.
on based on my knowledge and background and experience. Now, if I fluffed my resume, if I lied in the interview and I did really well lying, that's one thing. But I knew I went in there with this is who I am. This
Yeah.
is what I've done in my background and my experience. And you hired me based on what I said in my background and experience. And now I just have to show up and do that and be
Right.
open to learning something new. Did I
Yeah.
fail sometimes? I often did early on at the beginning because I was over trying to compensate. I was trying to say, kind of feel like, oh, I can do that. I'll figure it out. And there was no chat GPT at this point. There's nothing kind of feeding me the answers. I had to figure it out, which was
Yeah.
great. It was stressful and great at the same time because guess what it made me do? Work harder and then
Yep.
learn how to work smarter. And then from
Yep.
there, there was that next level. So everything I did was, it was selective. You talked about it's a selection. Let me go into in the middle of this. Let's see. I had something about one of the things you said. I'll get back to it. I don't want to delve too much, but one of the things you were talking about in there was the imposter syndrome and getting in the role. We both talked about how we didn't, I didn't have a degree when I got into the role. I
Hmm.
had to kind of get my way and feel comfortable in uncomfortable spaces. And that's where I was trying to go to.
Yeah.
Feeling comfortable in uncomfortable spaces and
Mhm.
navigating yourself through that. So you get into this new corporate gig. You're gone from working for the school district. You're in corporate gig. What did that uncomfortable feel like and how did you get yourself through it?
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable. It's like you're the new kid in school, but in this case, this school is an environment I've never been in, right? Corporate America. And we're adults, we're not kids. So I
Right.
think as adults, sometimes we're a little less gracious in terms of, oh, there's the new person. Let me reach out. Like that was less than when you are like a kid,
Hmm.
for me anyway. But there was people that I met in my first few days who were just incredible, like human beings that showed me kindness and that grace
Hmm.
and immediately started introducing me to people once I was myself. I wasn't trying to put on this facade that I knew everything, that I was this person who had it all together, figured out. It was yeah, I've been in the public district sector before this, and this is all new to me. I have no idea what org charts are. Things were coming up in conversations over the lunch, and there was acronyms being thrown around, and I was like, what's a QBR? Quarterly business review. What is that? Why do
Right.
they do it? What
Mm-hmm.
does that involve? Who attends? Why does it matter?
Right.
So then it put me in this mode of asking a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it in a way where I actually feel, Tanisha, when I think back about this, is I was able in the process to build these amazing relationships with some of these individuals because they became teachers. And I really think that when these individuals put on their teacher hat without knowing they were going to put on a teacher
Not
hat, when they
knowing
were in
it.
a room with me, I'd book conference room and people would whiteboard and explain things to me. And it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really what helped me break through and push through because once the dots started connecting, I started feeling empowered. I started feeling more confident. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I still felt in the rooms that I didn't belong because
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrounded with C-suite executives,
Right.
and I know their backstory, some of their backstories, their pedigree, the educational backgrounds, the long list of tech companies they've been at prior. And I'm sitting here like, oh, Sunnyvale School District, and I'm here now.
Yeah, right. And that's your
So
story, right? And you talked about that.
yeah,
You and I talked about briefly how you, where people want get in rooms and want to start talking about their education and background, you'd like want to just shimmy your way out of there, right?
yeah,
I mean, not,
yeah,
I'm not. This is hey, so I'm gonna go to lunch.
right.
I'm gonna step out right now. That it
Right.
was the uncomfortable. Those are the uncomfortable spaces, and still right now for me, that my education background is no Harvard, it's no Stanford, it's
Right.
none of that. But growing up in tech, right there, living in the Silicon Valley, a lot of the employees that came on, not a lot of my friends, I will say that, but a
Yeah.
lot of the employees I worked with, younger than I, older than I, they went to these really, Purdue and these schools, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
University of Phoenix,
Yeah.
Golden
Yeah.
University. Those are the two schools I went to. And so instead of saying it like I said in that tone, I got confident about it. I just start saying, my education is what it is. Here's my background. And do I avoid the conversation of what school? I still have some, sometimes when I'm in certain rooms, I do avoid it. I don't know if that would ever go away, but I'm confident in saying, here's the things. If someone's saying when I was in college, a lot of people don't say when I was at Purdue. They say when,
Yeah.
something when in college. So I can have the conversation, like one of the classes I took when I was in college, and then I can go in
Yeah.
with that. I used to not talk about that as well at all because I would think the next question they're going to ask is, oh, what school did you go to? So I
Yeah.
avoid it. Now I don't worry about it. You asked me, you asked me what I said though when I was saying when I was in college, what I learned to me was the value. The value
Yeah.
was not the school; it was the value of what I said about what I learned in college, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, and that resonates too. I would avoid the college events, people showing up wearing they're representing their school,
Alumni stuff.
and I'd be like, yeah, I'm not going to go to that, or
Yeah.
but that was my own insecurity, right? And now I'm so comfortable with it, where I'm like, I didn't go
Absolutely.
to college, so what? Like, I know that I'm smart. I've
Hmm.
worked hard. I've applied myself to get every position I've had.
Absolutely.
Yes, my network has been truly a blessing to help me along the way. But that doesn't define me. Having
Hmm.
the degree or from what school or none of that. At the end of the
Right.
day, judge me, based on my performance, on my character, on how I show up, and the work and the outcomes that I produce.
Yeah.
And I've met some brilliant people with, let me tell you, with many degrees. And Tanisha, they are not the brightest or the sharpest tool in the shed, as they say.
At all. And when and let me tell you, unfortunately, when that reality happened for me, I was like, that helped me. That reality to learn that you're not as, I was like, they're not as smart or not as
Yeah,
proficient. Like the work hard to me, whether I started off in administration. So you learn to
yeah,
do so much when you're an administrator versus just
yeah.
getting into, if I was not an HR admin to an HR coordinator to an HR specialist to an HR and all the way up to VP of HR,
Mhm.
I went through all those steps. I didn't transition over from a director of like operations and get into a senior HR. I went through all the steps. So when I see someone else on the HR side, I'm like, oh gosh, we're like you are missing a whole chunk of experiences that you probably
Right,
need to really do this job well. And I learned that a
right,
lot when I was starting to hire HR consultants. Their resume
right.
would look great on paper, and I'm having these conversations with them, and I'm talking about KPIs, and I'm talking about, I'm throwing up these acronyms that we definitely have to work with in HR all the time on the senior level or HR manager level, which is the level I was hiring. And people would just have a deer in the headlight look. And I'm like,
Mhm.
mergers,
Yeah,
acquisitions. Have you ever done anything? the due diligence process. What do you know about that? And they're like, what? I'm like,
But I have
oh.
all these degrees.
Okay, but you have all these degrees. You have, and no,
Yeah.
so I really did learn, and it just made me, shameless to me, but I felt so much more confident that the track in which I went, or the path in which I went, was the right one to go on to learn every, level by doing it over
Yeah.
time, and yeah, I had to earn my way up there. One of the things you talked
Yeah.
about is self-talk, and
Mhm.
this goes along with it as well. This is what we had to do. We had to get ourselves up to do. I mean, anything. This is in life, our personal lives. This is in our business lives. So the value of self-talk and
Yeah.
what does that mean to you,
Yeah.
according to
Yeah.
what you have in the book?
Yeah, I had to change the record, as they say. I know some of the younger audience, if you don't know what a record is or that reference is, I had to explain this to my kids, which is why I'm saying this in advance. When I was like, "You guys are driving me crazy. You're like a broken record," and they looked at me like, and I
Well,
thought, "Oh dear God, they don't know what a record is."
mm-mm,
Try to explain the analogy. So yeah, for me, I think self-talk, I've changed and have become very selective in terms of what I'm listening to, what I'm allowing into my ears, into my mind, into my heart. So every day I start with, some faith-based, whether it's a book, it's an Audible, Sirius XM has some good podcasts, Spotify, right? So it's listening to something that's going to lift me up, it's going to fulfill my heart, my soul, bring me the peace that I need to start my day and conquer it well.
absolutely.
And in addition to that, and this is hard, it's putting separation between the people that were dumping nothing but negative talk
Hmm.
or criticizing the goals that I was sharing, or having the need to share their negative opinions around plans or ambitions or things that I was sharing openly, being vulnerable and being made to feel that, I wasn't worthy for whatever reason to not be able to accomplish those things in their minds, right? So I think managing what you consume matters a lot, because it really does kind of put you in this space. Like if I think back, to times where I'm listening to like some good rap, like I love good rap, right?
Hmm.
But if you really like pay attention to how it makes you feel, you do get some kind of different response than if you were to put on, I don't know, some like Mozart or some spa music or meditation sounds. You're feeling very, very different, right? You put
Hmm.
on some EDM type music, you're going to feel kind of high energy, let me clean the house. Like,
Right.
for me, when I'm cooking, I'm listening to cumbias. So I'm feeling, good. I'm feeling inspired to cook it. So music and audio in general just evokes different feelings and emotions. So while I love a broad range of things and music, very diverse of all types, I'm very intentional around the affirmations, the faith-based podcast, Mel Robbins, mentor mindset, stuff like that.
Right.
Just to get me started, right? And
Hmm.
then it's throughout the day, talking through the day, positive stuff, lifting myself up. I make a mistake, it's okay, all good. But
Right.
bounce back, lesson learned, right? Just being kinder to myself in terms of what I say in my head.
Oh, that's such a these are the nuggets. These are the nuggets that I love on this show when someone can talk about. I mean, granted, your book covers so many different things. I definitely felt like reading your book was one of those things to where, I mean, it does say flourish in life and career, but that's definitely what you put out there. I want everyone to kind of think like that. Like think about your life and your career and what do they look like when you're at work. Your work life, whether they say don't mix them, your home and work life need to synergize. It's you. Who are you when you show up at home, at work? There is that person in the middle that sits in the
Yeah,
car and doesn't go in the
yeah,
house between work and home, right? We all have
right,
whatever you
right.
do between the two to kind of transition. There is some transitioning, but I show up each and every day now. I wasn't doing that before. I show up each and every day who I want to be at
Yeah,
home, who I want to be at work. Is it a little bit softer? Maybe yes, it's easier because I have an HR job and, of course you have to, you should
yes,
be more human, human focused when you're at work. And I had to really transition. I was nicer at times. I was nicer at work than I was at home because work could have
yeah.
cut me off. My kids were in my mind weren't going to cut me off. My husband at the time wasn't going to cut me off. So if I was frustrated at something that happened at work, that would end up going into home. Or if I had a lot going, I'd be like, I just need a minute. Don't, but I wouldn't say that at work. I wouldn't talk to the people at work that way.
Right, right.
And so I really had the self-talk was really like, who do you want to show up as every day, no matter where you're at, whatever environment you are, whatever music. So there'd be days where I had to listen to DMX, and I'll be honest with you, on my way to work.
Yes.
Listen, and then there'll be days I am on Kirk Franklin, I am on Tasha Cobbs, I am like, this
Yeah.
is my gospel moment that where I
Yeah.
just needed that, Lord,
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
give me the strength, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
I mix it. It'd be start off one way and I'd be like, okay, change my mindset.
Yeah.
And then get my, and I, because I'm coaching myself along the way, but it was
Yeah.
all about me kind of doing things. Music was one of the things that really did help me, doing things to get myself mentally prepared for the day
Yeah.
where I was content, right?
Yeah.
I could be
Yeah.
content.
Yeah. Hype songs, I mean, you got to have them and use them, right? Accordingly. Like when you say DMX, I'm like, oh man, that took me back to being pregnant with AJ. I think at that time, Gabe and I were, 18 and DMX was
Mhm.
fire. Like that was his fire year for sure. Flesh of my flesh, right? And just
Yes.
bumping it. And you got this energy of like, oh yeah, I'm going to work. I'm going to conquer this day
I'm
because
gonna
that's how I
conquer the
felt
day.
pumped,
Right.
you
I'm gonna
know?
conquer the day. It didn't have to do,
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't gonna, y'all gonna make me lose my mind. You know what I mean? But I would be able to laugh about that, right? I'd listen to
Right.
that and get that in my one of the times I was actually having to deal with a situation where it came down to a litigation and I literally through that I was emotional, it was going through something, but did not plan on it. But the song that came on was because it was litigation, I was looking for money out of it. The song Rihanna, "Be Better Have My Money." I
Uh-huh.
remember that came on, and in my mind, because I was so upset because I didn't want it to go this direction. I did not. I feel comfortable with everything going on. That song came on, and I just bumped it and laughed because that's what it came
Yeah.
down to. Here's the
Yeah.
litigation. Let's make this transfer
Yeah.
really easy. But the song that came on just helped me, inspired me and
Yeah.
put me on to
Channel
just
that energy, right?
it gave me a lot of energy. And so
Yeah.
I mean, there's self-talk and there's things that we listen to. There's
Yeah.
the other side of that. Obviously, if we're
Of
feeding
course.
negative things into our brains and our minds, we can go negative. And so one of the
Yeah.
people, and I'll give Kevin Bracey a shout out. He always says it, and I'm sure he got this from one of his mentors. But when your mind goes negative, your mouth goes positive. He said
Mm.
that all through. I took his training course while during COVID. Myself and a group of other people, we took that, and he would always say it. He says it a lot. He speaks at school districts a lot. But when your mind goes negative,
Yeah.
your mouth, say something outwardly positive.
Mhm.
And it was awkward at first because a lot of times I'm by myself. Your mind goes negative a lot in your head. It's in your mind. Like it's in your mind. You're not saying anything. So you can say something outward, but to say something positive. So I'm by myself and I'm like constantly trying to give myself positive affirmations.
Yeah. Yeah. They matter. They make a real difference. And yeah, I think it's so important. Like I said, just starting the day for me, it's a priority. Not looking at the phone. It's first things first, and it's that foundation for the day, the positivity that I need.
Absolutely. So, we have a couple more minutes to go, and I want to make sure to get all these thoughts and ideas I have in my mind because l- let's give it a second. Okay. Just to make sure we grasp onto everything before we end our conversation, just kind of looking at where your projection is next. Jazmin Diaz, you're here now in a corporate environment. You've written a book. What do you plan on? Right now, you're promoting the book in a way of, I've seen it on LinkedIn already. What are you looking to do? Are you doing a book tour? Are you speaking at conferences? What is your next step of what you want to do in
Yeah.
your career?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So yes, the book, came out March 12th of this year. So it's just been a couple of months. So far, I've been so grateful. Received some positive praise, feedback in terms of how the book is helping, whether it's through offering someone, a new perspective, different outlook, or different ways, the tactics in the book, right, of doing things to help themselves get to wherever it is they're going. So um, the book currently right now is actually in translation because my next phase is to break into the Mexican market.
Hmm.
So the book ideally will be ready by the end of June this month. And then my hope is to, August, take it to the Mexican market and take it to, places like Guadalajara, Mexico City, using it for professionals early in career, mid-career, all levels of career. But that's phase two. The current phase that I'm in, I have done a couple book launches here in the area. I participated recently at a career fair that was here in San Jose, so not too far. Amazing time, just connected with so many women. This was a woman target was the audience. Um, Made some great, connections, and I'm also working on some of those connections to bring me in to have these workshops or speaking opportunities. So I'm also doing a campaign for the intern programs at corporate. So I really feel this book, given the reviews that I mentioned earlier, could be part of like their toolbox, right? Is there like the interim programs sometimes, being in tech, I know some of the things that exist
Hmm.
in terms of where this book could potentially plug into. So I've been proposing, like, hey, get a resource, a flourish, whether it's booking me for speaking engagement plus the book or just the book and adding it to whether it's the learning tracks for the intern programs, the early in career. Also, there's a lot of that, investments in that from the
Hmm.
talent teams. Or then maybe it's for like the women in leadership or the sometimes they do the early, not the early, what emerging leaders. Sorry, they're called emerging leader programs, right?
Hmm.
I really feel that this book could plug into any one of those tracks. So that's currently where my focus is here in the US, trying to break through into those spaces, in addition to in the next couple of months, taking it to Mexico. And then eventually, I'd love to stop working in corporate and just dedicate myself fully to the business that I have with Flourish, with continue to coach clients, providing, meaningful workshops to empower that next generation of leaders.
Absolutely. And given your background being someone who everything you've done, that's going to be a great track for you. I feel like all of those things are that's going to happen for you. Your dedication has been so much. I mean, from the book, from seeing you as a parent, everything you've done, you're going to be able to do all these things. I'm going to just put that out there in the atmosphere.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
going to do
you.
all these things, and I'm definitely along for this journey and along for the ride. I definitely want to make sure that you and I still connect and make sure we do something with everything we're doing. Let's get on a panel. Let's start the panel. And that's the thing
Yeah.
too. We want to get on panels. And I've said this to myself for years before. And I said I wanted to get on panels and I want to be a speaker. And same thing with whether it be acting or this podcast. I want to do
Yeah.
these things. I want to be on someone's podcast. Well, start your own.
Right.
Create your own lane and create your own space.
Yeah.
And with that, let me just tell you, I have other people saying, I'd love to have you on my show. And
Right.
it's blowing my mind and so I'm telling you this because I'm saying, well, we want to do all these things, creating it yourself. I mean, we could read someone's book, we can read multiple books, or
Right.
we can make our own because our own
Right.
story is our testimony and we can use that and promote things. So I'm going to say to you, keep going, keep flying, keep just soaring. And for the guests, you all,
Thank you.
here again, we have Ignite Your Growth Perspectives and Tactics to Flourish in Life and Career by Miss Jazmin Diaz. I have that here. Again, we'll get that link on the show as well and make sure everyone can get the link to your book and they can connect with you. But otherwise, is there anything, again, this show is called Too Skilled to Fail. I feel you are definitely one to call Too Skilled to Fail. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it just means, staying true to yourself, in the sense of what it is that you want to do, defining success. What does that look like for yourself? And aligning everything to purpose and your values, and being very intentional about shutting out the naysayers, and not allowing the obstacles or the challenges be limiters, right? Let them be the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Miss
Yeah.
Jasmine Diaz.
Thank you
Here we
so much,
go. Thank
Tanisha.
you so much for coming, and we'll get things going. Next steps, sky's the limit, and then beyond, because
Yeah.
now it's like space.
Yes, thank you. And to the audience, keep flourishing. And thank you very much for listening in.
All right.